This question is all about vocab. You need to know the vocabulary words associated with quadratics, which is what this is. It's a parabola. But the things that matter are the equation and the idea of a vertex. Those two things matter. So let's start with the equation, because it's not a word, but we should treat it like a vocabulary word because it's telling us something, and we need to memorize what it's telling us and know how to interpret that version of a quadratic equation, right? Because there's multiple versions. This is what would be called the root form or the factored form. And it's basically, remember, these terms, these factors, tell us the x-intercepts of the parabola. So those are the x-intercepts. So we're going to sketch a very quick graph here. We don't do this very often on the SAT. Very rarely are we graphing. And when we do graph, we don't need to get carried away. Just put some things here. So what are these x-intercepts? Well, remember, another word for x-intercepts is zeros, which means what values of x would give us 0 as the value of the term, right? So this is the thing where you have to switch the sign. So in this case, the two intercepts are going to be -3 and -1. So let me write that, -3, -1. Right? Because if we plug -3 into that equation, -3 plus 3 is 0, and then 0 times anything makes the whole equation 0. Same thing with -1. -1 plus 1 is 0. 0 times anything makes the whole equation 0. So that's the purpose. That's what that gives us. And now we just kind of connect the dots, right? But when we connect the dots of a parabola, there's a little bit of a curve to it, right? It's a little bit of a loop. And now we need to remember what is a vertex. That's this point. Sometimes it's called the turning point. Sometimes it's called the maximum, or in this case, the minimum. But that's it. That's what we're talking about. It's basically like the middle of the parabola, the part where it turns around. And that point is always halfway between the two x-intercepts. Always. So in this case, we don't really need to know about that. We just need to know, well, if this were here, what number would this be between? What range, right? So that's, greater than -3. So it's going to be choice B. Greater than -3, less than 1. The 1 makes no sense to me. I don't know what that's doing there. There's nothing to do with any aspect of this parabola. But it doesn't matter because it still falls into the range that they gave us. So don't worry that it's like a random number. It's fine. We actually do know that the vertex occurs at -2. It's literally halfway between the two x-intercepts. So 2 is half of 1 and 3. So that's, I don't know why they asked it in this weird way, but they did. And so -2 fits into that range, and that's the reason. So yeah, weird way of asking this question, but these rules are essential. They could ask this a million different ways, but the rules don't change. The vocab here, understanding what an x-intercept is, what 0 is, a factor, those things, and then how the vertex fits in with all that. Those are really essential things for the SAT. I know in my study guide, I have a whole page that just gives you all the definitions and points to them on a graph so that you can see how a quadratic is talked about and built. Two really important things, because this is not a math question in my opinion, this is a vocab question. So you got to know the vocab so you can get the points.